How we doing? Today is Tuesday, the 29th of April, 2025. Just doing a real estate tap in with you for today. Didn't see any big headlines. The biggest thing right now is that the market is shifting in most areas. Here in New Jersey, obviously, things are, still selling reasonably quickly, at the asking price and stuff like that. But about half, if not more than half of the markets in the U.S. are seeing, some type of, where sellers are lowering the price. I guess you would call it price discovery, giving certain concessions, maybe property staying on the market a little bit longer. So it's slowly, trending into a seller's market. Again, it is going to depend on where you live. But other than that, didn't see any major headlines that I thought everybody needs to know about. But the one thing I did want to talk about is affordable housing. I looked up today what affordable housing actually meant. And if you do your own search, you'll see that it's defined as 30% of your income. And, I would suggest you use 30% of your net income towards your living expenses. And started to think, I said, well, how many people do you think really have, are spending 30% or less on their housing? Whether it be an apartment, whether it be a house, whatever the case may be. And that's what, people really should be shooting for. A lot of people are stretching themselves. And I think it's showing up too, especially in FHA. FHA, they get people with the low down payment, 3%, which is good, but what is that debt? What is your debt to income ratio look like? Where are you at in terms of that payment? Because you are only putting 3% down. What type of rate are you getting? And then what's that payment look like? Is that payment 40%? 42% of your income? 38%, something like that. It's probably too high because life happens, things happen, your car breaks down, something happens at the property that needs to be fixed. Cost of childcare increases from year to year, whatever the case may be. And we're in a time now where, expenses, for anything, for anything that you own are going up. So people got to be careful. It sounds good. They say, oh, you're approved. But do you really, are you really looking at how much is going towards your housing? And we all need a place to say, I get it. You know what I mean? So, but if you are going to kind of push those limits, you want to make sure that you have some other protections in place. You want to make sure that you got 6 months worth of savings or longer. What other type of assets do you have that can be liquidated, if and when life happens? And, look at worst case scenario and how long could I withstand a worst case scenario if I am going to push this, this payment to kind of the upper levels on a maximum level. So, I would say, just try to have those protections in place so it'll give you some time. If something does happen where you can, adjust and not feel, stressed and feel a lot of the pain that comes with, when life happens. So I just thought that was interesting that, the government sets affordable housing at 30%. Why aren't we looking at it, at that type of range as well, and not try to, push ourselves a little bit, to those upper percentages. You know, you got to be careful with that. So, all right. I'll be live at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time today. If you want to check me out on Instagram, if you have any questions, concerns, you know, problems with real estate or property or something like that, you know, reach out. You know, look for me on Instagram at Abundant Capital Group Instagram page. And, you know, we'll be talking more about, you know, affordability. All right. Talk to you soon. Have a great one.